Have gown. Will wed. A workplace-ish romance. Written by Killian McRae. Episode 2. Chapter 4. Rosalind. No form of exercise known to man prepared one for the human is eaten by snake. The proper form called on one to 1. Hold a briefcase in one hand. 2. Fish out keys with the other. 3. Simultaneously use the arm of choice to secure a bag of takeout food. 4. Maintain alpha status over a German shepherd on a leash who wanted nothing more than to eat said takeout food. And 5. Keep in position a cell phone against one ear, using only a shoulder, as you had again misplaced your earbuds for what must be a world record number of times. For advanced practitioners, using one foot to push the newly unlocked door open while balancing gracefully on a single high-heeled shoe provided an extra challenge. Koji-san, I understand where you're coming from, but you have to understand, I just don't have that kind of bandwidth right now. My schedule is stacked tighter than a Tokyo train. I couldn't possibly get to Japan in the next few days. My keys, a moment before aligned with the lock on the door, slipped to the right and dropped to the floor. God darn you! The man on the other end of the line stuttered.
God darn o' me.
I did my best to pick up the keys and my place in the conversation. Somehow, I managed to retrieve both without dislocating a shoulder or shouting out further expletives. No, sorry, not you, Koji-san. I was cursing at inanimate objects.
Again?
My silence was all the answer he needed.
Next week you come then.
Koji continued.
We plan your visit.
Maybe, only for a day, 2 tops. I'll have my assistant call yours in the morning to work out the details. I really have to go now.
Hot date?
I could practically hear the grin in his voice. Yeah, with my dog. Crap strudel down. The German shepherd yanked me forward the moment the door opened, forcing the bag of Chinese food containers and my briefcase from my grasp. I managed to say a polite if rushed goodbye and toss the cell and my keys on an accent table adjacent to the door. A flash of black and tan went long in pursuit of a paper sack that had landed a few feet away. Panicked, I dropped to the floor and pawed in pursuit on all fours, reaching my target just as Strudel's nose nudged into the bag. The dog whined when the opportunity to perform an olfactory inspection and possibly sample the victuals to ensure the food was not poisoned was denied. No, boy. That's for Mama and her handsome guest. No denying the facts. Xavier Hommes made a woman's mouth water. Of course, I'd encountered just such a man who fired up my libido just when I decided I was going to settle down. Why I was admitting it to my dog, however, I wasn't sure. Maybe I thought Strudel might be looking. The acknowledgement of a second round of knocking only registered on my radar when accompanied by the realization that something tall, dark, and lurking was eyeing me from behind. Me, down on all fours, in a pencil skirt and high heels. My head turned, my jaw dropped, and my dignity left the building. The good news was that I hadn't yet turned on the light inside the entry. The bad news was that the light that hung overhead outside my door spilled in over me just beyond his shadow, making me look like some Fortune 500 version of a cabaret performer. Oh, God. He took 2 steps in, his black trench coat still misty from San Francisco's persistent fog. He must have come up in the elevator with me. One couldn't get in on this floor unless they knew the code, or someone had buzzed them up. Had I really been so absorbed in my phone call I hadn't even noticed Xavier Hommes standing in the elevator? Was it possible to be in Xavier's presence and not notice him? The vague memory of feeling like someone was watching in the lift came back. Crap. Apparently it was possible, or at least it was for me. The headhunter had the good grace not to inquire. Not about why I was currently in what one of my exes had referred to as the receiving position. Not to ask why I stayed frozen in said position while my mouth went into suspended animation. not to ask why I was unable to speak. Had I known that this man looked as though he might have come into his profession following a career as a men's health cover model, I might not have insisted on meeting with him in person. For all my brains, beauty, and bravado, putting me in front of a man that gorgeous turned me into a fidgeting, awkward, blubbering pile of geek goo. I'd first discovered that fault in college, and had taken on a persona as an ice queen in part to avoid potential opportunities to out myself. Had the meeting not had a business purpose to distract from how attractive he was, he'd probably be in serious doubt of my sanity. Which, given that 13 seconds had passed, and still I gaped at him over my shoulder, while playing Clan of the Cave Bear on the Persian rug, he might think anyhow.
Ms. Betters?
When he took another step in, flipping on the light switch next to the door as he did so, Strudel leaped. The well-intentioned mutt went into guard dog mode, circling behind his master, and putting himself between me and the perceived intruder, a rumbling growl filling the soundscape. I snatched the paper sack, and at last managed to rise. "Strudel, heel!" As though I'd slapped the dog on the nose with my words, Strudel's posture eased. He whined again as he nuzzled his cold nose into my leg. Sorry about that. Strudel's a little overly protective when food's nearby, but he only attacks when commanded, or when he sees a squirrel. Xavier closed the door behind him, removed his coat, and took off his hat. He could have just walked off the set of a James Cagney biopic. His reliance on a somewhat relaxed formality was refreshing. Silicon Valley embraced comfort. Most CEOs went to the office each day in jeans and graphic tees. It was nice to see a man who respected himself and his clients well enough to dress the part.
I'm glad.
My dog threatens you and you're glad about it?
Exceedingly.
He assured as he hung his coat.
A beautiful, successful woman living on her own in this city. I'd be worried if you didn't have a dog or a can of mace.
I shook a knowing finger. Ah, I see.
What?
That your throwback style doesn't stop at your trench coat and your fedora. You're one of those men who thinks a woman always needs a protector, that she can't fend for herself. His dark eyes narrowed.
With all due respect, you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company in one of the most cutthroat markets in the world. I think you've already more than proven you can fend just fine. But even the most diligent person can innocently put themselves in a dangerous situation. For example, riding up in an elevator while so distracted by her phone conversation that she doesn't notice someone standing next to her and following her off.
Despite the lack of ridicule in his voice, I felt my cheeks blush in embarrassment. I turned and took up as much as my arms could handle, desperate to flee into the kitchen, where I could put a counter and a few breaths between us. Xavier let his eyes take a wider survey of both me and our surroundings.
Can I help?
Before I could speak, he'd taken the paper bag and was en route to the kitchen. I'd have questioned his instinct about the direction, but the layout of a loft didn't exactly confuse. Outside of a walled-off bathroom, my bedroom and the stairs leading up to the guest room, space flowed. From the entry door, the abode spilled out into an amoebic procession of the kitchen, dining area, living room, and home office. I hope you don't mind takeout, I said as I took advantage of his absence to kick off my Jimmy Choos and take off my coat. I didn't know what you liked, so I had Carmen order a few things.
Actually, I wasn't expecting dinner at all, so this is a treat.
You made an appointment to see me at home at 7:30. Did you think I would send you away hungry? By the time I joined him at the kitchen island, Xavier already had several white boxes open, inspecting the contents. So, how does this go, this observation thing? You just hang out for a while and watch me? He shrugged, pulling out a drawer and taking from it some serving spoons.
Basically.
Isn't that a little, creepy?
Not if you're getting paid to do it. Shall we eat from the boxes, or do you want plates?
Whatever you're comfortable with. Help yourself to anything except... My hand dashed out when he cracked open the final box. That one. As Xavier's now empty hands remained clutching a phantom container, he grinned.
Interesting.
I didn't like that grin. It did weird things to my stomach. And other parts of me. Why do you say that like I'm a cheetah and you're David Attenborough? He didn't answer directly, but proceeded with his roundabout explanation as he turned to the cabinets and began looking for plates. He found them in the second drawer, pulled down 2, and set one in front of me, the other in front of himself.
You noted that I have a specific method for finding just the right candidate for a job, Ms. Betters. Observation is the core principle of that method. The decisions you make in your environment, seeing how you function, it tells me tons about the sort of personality that will work best with yours.
With a mouthful of chicken, I spluttered. My love for Kung Pao tells you what kind of husband I should have? Not so much that as how you took the box out of my hands like you were Gollum and it was the one true ring. My face contorted as the term, my precious, ran through my head and I gave the box in my hands a doughy glance. A moment later, I threw off the gesture. He already thought I was crazy, but did I want him to think I was also a geek? I was, clearly, but only on my own time. Clearly spoken like someone who's never had Madame Ming's signature dish.
Clearly.
He admired me for a moment too long. I felt the need for distance and changed the subject. Tell me, Mr. Holmes, why are you here? Jack already worked up a profile on me when I came to you for Carmen. Can't you just borrow his notes or something? On his fork, Xavier had speared a piece of broccoli so green, Kermit would wonder if he was related to it.
Insufficient for this assignment. The whole profile lacks a central characteristic intrinsically necessary to make this placement successful. Jack observed you in an office environment, and the questions he asked were of an entirely different bent. He profiled you as a professional. I need to understand who you are when you're not at the office. That's why I'm meeting you at home. Your loft is the boardroom of your domestic life. I'll also need to explore an entirely different aspect of your personality, but we'll get to the new set of questions later.
So glad to see you've come around on this. For a while the other day, I thought you were going to call the police and have me put under observation for my own good. He fixed his eyes into a mound of fried rice.
It's still an option I'm considering.
When he looked up, the playful half-smile on his face struck me deep inside as something not entirely professional. Xavier cleared his throat and straightened. One more bite of steamed veggies and rice, and he pushed the food aside.
With your permission, I'd like to have a look around.
Why?
Building your profile, Ms. Betters. This may be a lot more intimate than I tend to get with a subject, but not unprecedented. I've done something similar before when I placed an estate manager with one of the more prestigious families in the area.
Personal assistants, chief accountants, and estate managers? My, you do get around, don't you?
You're not the first to say so.
What may have been coy innuendo failed to be when delivered in such a dismissive tone.
I don't want to invade your privacy or make you feel uneasy. Follow, and if there's somewhere you don't want me to look, just say so. When you're ready...
I hid the Kung Pao at the back of the fridge. Of course. He tipped his chin.
Let's begin then. I'd also like to ask you some questions at the same time. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, in a way. I'll get out of your hair sooner that way, too.
It's okay. You can stay in my hair as long as it takes to do the job well. Pausing, he looked back over his shoulder at me.
Interesting.
But without giving me a chance to ask what had piqued him, he plowed on.
First, and I admit this is partly out of curiosity, why?
I followed the direction of his stare as he went through the rest of the contents of my kitchen cupboard. Can you be more specific?
Not really. How you choose to answer is part of my observation.
Ah, so it was one of those the answer is in the question things. So I used to be part of this group of friends. We were all students at Stanford together. We are still friends, I think. But the last few years we've seen each other less and less. They got busy, I got busy. I was at Google after college, then left to form Beta House. I guess we all just went our separate ways over time, but the other night my best friend, Kamakshi, told me she was getting married. Kamakshi, I'm so not meant to sit home and make gobi puree. And suddenly it all seemed to make sense. He sniffed a container of tea, a favorite blend only sold in a few shops around the Bay Area, and only for a few months out of the year. Marriage, I huffed. Wasn't that obvious? I mean, I'm not one of those ultra-feminist types. I'm not anti-marriage per se. I just never thought of it as something smart for career women.
So you've never had any serious relationships?
Define serious, I challenged, but he let it fly. Never one where the topic came up. Then Kamakshi told me why she was getting married, that she didn't see the point of everything she was doing if it was just for her and not shared with someone else. Suddenly, it made sense. I knew that's where I needed to be.
If I was your mother, I'd recite the old idiom about if all your friends jumped off a bridge.
If you were my mother, Mr. Holmes, you would have died when I was in high school. He froze.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean...
It's okay. His inspection led to what could be described as a living room if it had walls. As Xavier Holmes's eyes surveyed the spines of my neglected DVD collection, Strudel in turn observed him with the same amount of care and suspicion.
You have a penchant for black and white films.
A statement, not a question. Yet it somehow put me on the defensive. I watch classics almost exclusively. So much of what gets made today is porn disguised as plot, or a cheap excuse for someone with a CS degree to show off his animation skills. His eyes were already skimming over the shelf above, loaded with what remained of my CD collection, pre-MP3 and iPods.
Got it. Not an FX fan. Doesn't like porn.
There's nothing wrong with porn. Had I actually just said that? The sides of my face flared. Xavier looked at me amusedly. I just mean, it's not my thing, I amended. I don't like when something or someone tries to pass itself off as something it's not. I appreciate people who are genuine. He gave me an acknowledging nod.
In this city, I can understand how sometimes that's a rare characteristic. I'll be genuine then. I get a lot out of seeing that you have a taste for black and white films. It means you're not a shiny things person.
Shiny things?
You're not impressed by flash or trends. You have a long-range view of things. You like to examine the core issues of something, dig into its intricacies. You won't be happy with a man who drives a Porsche or a Ferrari.
You get all of that out of my Mae West obsession? I leaned forward and pointed at one of the DVDs. Or is it Ginger Rogers that's the key? I like her almost as much with or without Fred. A man who can't appreciate black and white films has no future with me.
That ever a problem in any of your past relationships?
All my boyfriends to date have been pretty neutral on a stare. When he didn't even smile, I continued. Has what ever been a problem, exactly? Again, he waited, not deigning to clarify. Another test, I realized. Okay, so yeah. On occasion, the fact that I'm by no means a hipster and that most of the songs in my music library are older than most of my friends' parents has come up. My tastes aren't normal for someone of my generation, granted. It's hard to find someone who doesn't want to run out to see every graphics-heavy summer hit instead of something with actual character development. But I do like pithy satirical news if that counts for anything. Have you seen John Oliver? Brilliant and yet cutting. Xavier beamed.
You are a smart one, aren't you?
It seemed to answer every scenario of what? A few more minutes spent looking through the items on my at-home work desk, which books could be found on the bookshelf and the arrangements thereof, and Xavier's eyes turned toward the bedroom. For the third time that evening, I felt myself blush. If he was paying attention, and I was fairly positive he probably thought I was either ill or had traces of chameleon in my family tree. Xavier's hand hesitated on the doorknob.
I don't have to go in.
I swallowed my nerves, stared at my feet, and sucked on my bottom lip. As though sensing my unease, I felt Strudel's fur under my fingertips. Finally, I cleared my throat. No, please, go ahead. I didn't follow. There was no reason to. He wouldn't find anything revealing or insightful in there unless the fact that my linens were 1,000 count said anything. White sheets, white pillows, nightstand with one white lamp and an alarm clock with an integrated iPhone charger. Walk-in closet with a collection of clothes that hung in prescribed fashion, from lightest to darkest. Shoes arranged on shelves in the boxes in which they'd come. A pair of slippers lifted from the Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore, aligned perpendicular to the bed. In short, a room full of function, totally lacking in form. A severely made bed. Just a minute had passed when he re-emerged and pulled the door closed behind him. I looked up to meet his eyes, and the expression threw me for a loop. Something akin to sympathy filled his features. Simultaneously, I felt dismissive and defensive. I only come home to eat, sleep, and shower. I'm at the office 16 hours a day when I'm not traveling. That includes most weekends.
I didn't ask.
You did, just not out loud. But I'm willing to bet the fact that I volunteered it so easily tells you something, doesn't it? Xavier started to say something but stopped himself. It felt good, seeing him scramble. After a moment, he scratched the back of his head.
I have a few more questions. Maybe we should sit.
I pointed at the couch. Strudel followed, seating himself in guard dog position on the floor beside my feet.
She's a pretty dog.
Xavier offered as he reached out to scratch his ear. Strudel accepted the gesture but took no aims to enjoy it.
Does she stay here alone all day?
He, actually. No, Strudel comes to the office each afternoon and sleeps under my desk. We run in the mornings before I leave. I have a dog walker that picks him up around 1 each day, runs him again for about an hour, then brings him to Beta House. For a few moments he hesitated. Then finally, softly, he asked,
What about sex?
Not tonight, I'm still full from dinner. Through a confused gawk, he ran full diagnostics on me. Kidding? Is that really something we need to discuss at this point? I hedged.
We can come back to it later, but since I brought it up, I at least want to tell you why I ask. Normally, when I'm sketching out the type of person I'll put forward to fill a position, I must ascertain the employer's desire in the way that candidate will handle their responsibilities. In the case of a potential spouse, and, well, since this area of engagement usually includes that as a task, not to say having sex with you would be,
Now it was Xavier's turn to blush. His voice trailed off, leaving me to determine if this subject would indeed be addressed here and now. I sniffed in some courage and tried to keep my voice flat. I won't make a decision about a spouse based on his sex appeal. If all I wanted was some pretty face or rock-hard abs, I've passed on opportunities for that one already. In my mind's eye, an image of X's faces, chests, and other parts of the anatomy teased my memory.
Are you sure this is the way to handle this, Miss Betters?
I leaned in, grinning contemptuously. This, Mr. Hommes? When his eyes met mine and his face screwed up, I regretted the momentary lapse in professionalism. Boundaries would keep me from embarrassment.
Touché.
He finally said, dragging his eyes away.
There's nothing to be gained from being imprecise. I'm talking about this approach to finding a spouse. I can understand the appeal. In some unexpected way, coming to someone like me even makes sense. I guess what I do for a living isn't that different from a matchmaker in some cultures, even if my pairings tend to be more about work relationships than working relationships. However, you're not. It's just, I wouldn't expect someone like you to have difficulty finding someone.
I'm sure I could, eventually. I sighed. Rest assured that I hesitated, but I know what I want, and I know now's the time. I don't have time to start dating a sea of men, playing all the little character discovery games you have to play to figure a person out, hoping they measure up to your expectations, developing a relationship that may or may not go anywhere. I just want to bypass all that. I want to get to point B by the fastest route possible. My hand came to rest on the sleeve of his jacket. I want you to help me do that. His eyes trained on my fingers. On him. My gaze met the misty expanse of his. What cologne are you wearing, Mr. Hommes? Confusion helped clear some of the tension.
What? Acqua di Gio?
Leaning in, I closed my eyes and inhaled. When my eyes reopened, I was certain I must look intoxicated. It's certainly how I felt. Maybe you can add to my list of necessities an appreciation for fine fragrances.
And you said you already have a dress?
He backed in his chair, putting clinical distance between us. Oh, goodness, I'd forgotten I'd mentioned that. Pinpricks of heat danced over my cheeks. It's not what you think,
You have no idea what I think.
he cautioned.
But I'll admit it's more than idle curiosity. If you were formally engaged,
He let the statement linger. Was it another test? Would my reaction inform him of something? The truth, however, was pretty bland. Nothing like that. The dress was my grandmother's. She asked me to wear it if I ever found someone.
for someone who works on the cutting edge of technology, you have a very interesting traditional streak, Ms. Betters.
His eyes studying me with intentions that went beyond idle amusement or curiosity. I felt like different parts of my body were being hashtagged.
I wonder if I should take this search international. Your temperament doesn't exactly reflect local social norms.
My mother used to say that fate brings people together when they're ready. You don't need to cross an ocean to find a shore. His eyes twinkled.
And yet, you hired me.
I shrugged. My mom was wise, but in my experience, fate doesn't get great customer feedback. When his hand reached out and rubbed my arm, I felt a chill shoot through me. I'd forgotten how pleasant it was to have a man touch you with tenderness, even if that man was an independent contractor.
Don't worry. I have much higher client ratings than fate.
Before I could reply to that statement, my phone rang, nearly making me jump out of my skin. Sorry, I plowed across the loft to where I'd left it by the entry. Work, 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 I better check that.
And it's getting late. I should probably go.
How he moved so quickly behind. And yet, away from me, I'd never know. I'd barely breezed through the text and quit my phone's sleep screen when he had his coat back on and his hand at the front door handle.
I'll call Carmen to set up another meeting. I need opportunities to observe you in several environments before I can begin the selection process. Of course, I'll keep this whole assignment under the strictest control and exercise care that only candidates meeting all your expectations and mine are approached. In the meantime, feel free to contact my office if you need anything.
Xavier ran a finger over the rim of his hat before tipping it in acknowledgement while stepping onto the elevator. Kamakshi's message was still waiting when I turned my eyes back to the screen. 29th May in Mumbai. Mark your calendar and book your tickets. Thank God, May 29th. Now, when I got married on June 21st, I wouldn't be stealing Kamakshi's thunder. Assuming, of course, that Xavier Hommes delivered.
Chapter 5. Xavier. Mario Bellini, a PhD in classics, an associate professor at Berkeley, speaks his native Italian, several dead languages, English of course, and oddly enough, Swedish. I took off my glasses and gazed up at the man sitting on the other side of the desk. Italian, English, and Swedish. Is this right? Jack made sure to give his full attention to his caramel latte, sipping the foam like a man for whom leisure came free.
I thought that was weird too. Turns out he was married to a model from Stockholm until a few years ago. Must have learned their language to know what the in-laws were saying about him. Just like I learned Spanish to spy on Javier's family.
I tossed down my pen and leaned back in my chair. Was Javier's family involved in some covert operation? The pasty man with thinning white hair and a tire rack around his waist, faux blanched.
No, but they did think my ass was huge. Like his sister can talk. Now.
He took up the file folder again and examined the contents with more scrutiny.
What are we saying on Il Professore here? Yes, no, or maybe? I'm thinking yes for a follow-up call at the very least. Then again, I've always had a weakness for Italian men, and he does look so dolce.
Il professore è un no.
For those of us who don't know Italian?
Jack's face contorted. No to the professor, I amended, closing the file and tossing it on the desk. His file screams out serial matrimony to me. I don't think our client would be interested in being the next installment in an ongoing saga. 3 piles of recycled manila folders lay before us. The tallest tower with a sticky note on the table before it labeled N.O. in shocking script. For the last 2 days, we'd made and reviewed profile after profile. The number of eligible bachelors that met the precursor of Rosalind's criteria up and down the West Coast had overwhelmed me. Unfortunately, finding candidates who passed the bar I set proved more difficult. Out of 80 initial candidates, 59 got tossed onto the reject pile. 16 were borderline, getting added to the maybe stack. That left only 5. 5. I'd really hoped to offer her more of a choice. The In-N-Out drive-through had more variety. I reviewed the maybe pile. Maybe I should pick a few more from here, just in case.
It's your call, boss. So, you gonna tell me finally how Rosalind Betters succeeded in getting you to play Yente? I was positive you'd turn her down flatly.
I looked up from a newly opened file. Play what? Jack rolled his eyes and sighed.
Not what, who, Yente, the matchmaker.
A fact I could see from Jack's expression that he took for a self-evident truth. He swung forward in his seat, guffawing.
Seriously? Don't tell me you've never seen Fiddler on the Roof.
My answer was as empty as his stare.
Oh, for the love of Ethel Merman. If Mozart or Puccini didn't write it, you're hopeless. It's from one of the most famous Broadway plays and, oh, by the way, movies of all time. Or don't they show movies in Quebec? You know the song? Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a... yada yada yada.
I waved a hand through the air like the queen dismissing her butler. I guess I've heard it once or twice.
No, this is unacceptable. Having a gay man as your best friend, there is no excuse for you not to have seen the brilliance that is Anatevka. Jack fished out his cell. I'm alerting Javier. We'll grab some crab from the wharf and have a movie night.
No, I have a meeting. His finger frozen in mid-punch, Jack pinned me for inspection.
On a Friday night?
Are you accusing me of something? Because from the sound of your voice and the arch of your eyebrow, I get the impression that you're accusing me of something.
Just, I thought you had a strict the weekends are my personal time philosophy. And since I know you've given up your femme du jour program...
Settling back behind my desk, I sighed. Getting on Betta's calendar is nearly impossible. Luckily, she has no social life, so tonight it is. Can we focus? Show tunes aren't going to solve this. My finger indexed the spines of the folders. I think one more, at least. 5 candidates seem skimpy, but 6 is respectable. Jack stood and seized the pile.
There was one I thought was perfect, but you did that frowny thing you do. Give it a second chance. Just let me find it.
His face broke into a smile when he pinched a folder and fished it out.
This one.
Setting out the contents across the desk, I re-examined the profile. You sure it's not just because this guy looks like someone out of a cologne commercial? With a huff, Jack snatched back the picture.
Don't hate him because he's beautiful. He meets all her guidelines. Masters of Business from Stanford, acting director of the Flushman Group at CFI Financials, recently back from a long vacation to Morocco. He's the right age and in the right place, lives right here in the city. And you'll love this. He donates money to the San Francisco Opera. I mean, if I knew you didn't swing that way, I'd suggest that the two of you try and see if you can hit it off.
That's why I didn't pick him. He seems a little... I bit my tongue before saying too much like me. I'd recognized earlier in the day the dangerous truth. I found Rosalind attractive. That initial lure would fade soon. It always did. Though I'd admit, the image of her on all fours in the entryway of her loft would take a while to forget. I'd rarely warred with my libido more than in that moment. The temptation was perfectly logical, given both her many fine qualities, tastes, and beauty, but the fact still could throw off my insights. I didn't want to give her someone I could see as being a proxy for myself. It would make me too curious if she chose such a candidate, if she and I could ever have. I cleared my throat and my dangerously wandering imagination. Too perfect. Jack's head slipped off his balled-up fist.
You're disqualifying a candidate because he's perfectly suited to the position? And here I thought you had actual reasons for not wanting this placement to go swimmingly. Or...
A saccharine grin peeked out.
Do you have other reasons for not wanting to get Rosalind Betters married off?
The concrete expression on my face began to dissolve. I'd trained Jack well in the art of reading expressions. Too well. He must have noticed my tight fists and jaw while looking at the file. Classic signs of feeling threatened or intimidated. Caveman mannerisms. Fine, I'll give him a call.
Let it be noted that my taste in men is much better than yours.
Jack teased.
Of course, you're assuming any of these guys will actually be open to the idea of one, marrying in the next few months, and 2, to Rosalind Betters.
They should be so lucky. It didn't take a moment before I caught that mischievous, annoying, accusative glare from Jack. What?
I knew it. You do like her.
I admire her, I corrected. There's a huge difference.
There's no difference.
Is too, I insisted. I admire the paintings of Rivera, but that doesn't mean I want to rip one off the wall and make love to it. Jack shrunk back in his chair.
Rosalind Betters is a whole lot more three-dimensional than a painting. You sure you're not, you know?
Teeth gnashing, I looked over Jack's shoulder to make sure no one lingered by the door. She's stunning, Jack, but I'm keeping myself in check. If I land Beta House as a client, we're going to see crazy growth right in tangent with theirs.
And if you landed Rosalind Betters instead?
Even if I've given up the Lothario lifestyle, I'm not sure I've yet shaken the pattern, I assured him through gritted teeth. I'd do to her what I do to all the others. Sleep with her, play around with her for a few weeks, then leave her high and dry when my interest faded. I don't think she'd be willing to use Ohm's HQ then, no matter how good I am in bed. Besides, I meant what I said. I admire her. I want to see her get her husband and happiness. She deserves that.
You barely know her. What would make you think she's owed something?
Then he too mimicked my conspiratorial manner.
What did you see when you profiled her at home? You caught on to something, didn't you? I did too when I met with her a few months ago. Care to compare theories?
No. I leaned forward and lifted my phone. Corey, could you come in here, please? Within 3 shakes, my assistant stood before us. I took the sacred 6 folders, normalized the stack, and passed them off. Please contact each one of these men and see if I can get on their calendars this week. In-person meetings only, no telephone calls, and make sure they have a non-disclosure agreement signed and sealed before I get there. 30 minutes should do it. Book flights where needed accordingly. Tell them it's in regards to a high-level position around an upcoming possible merger. I turned back to Jack. I'm allowed to like my clients and leave it at that, Jack. This is just business. Beta House's growth could help to push our company to the next level. Whatever makes Rosalind Betters happy makes this company rich.
Chapter 6. Rosalind. Despite her Indian background, Kamakshi had never practiced yoga. Her idea of exercise involved a treadmill and a trashy gossip magazine. Well fit, she just wasn't that flexible. Her body, however, had failed to communicate that fact to her jaw. I was surprised her chin hadn't come to a rest on the bed of lettuce on her plate, or fallen off. It was hanging open so widely.
Your what?
I bit off the end of a carrot. You heard me.
When?
June 21st.
This coming June 21st?
Kamakshi advanced to the most obvious question.
To whom?
I hitched my shoulder and shoveled a forkful of baby spinach into my mouth. Don't know, I haven't picked him yet. I could see the wheels spinning in her mind, trying to figure out which of the ludicrous things I'd said in the last few minutes to lambast first.
Rosalind, June 21st is less than 3 months away. Are you telling me you're getting married in 12 weeks? And you don't know who the groom is?
Kamakshi's eyes became slits, letting nothing except her suspicion through.
Did you get asked to be on one of those reality bachelorette shows?
God, no. Listen, I thought a lot about what you said. You know, about marriage and building a life with someone. And like usual, you made some really good points. So I decided you were right. I have so much going for me right now, and I have no one to share it with.
You have me,
Kamakshi protested. I reached across the table and took her hand. But you're already spoken for, sweet, unless you think you'd like a sister wife. In a split second, Kamakshi reclaimed her hand and used it to slap me on the wrist.
You know what I mean. I wasn't suggesting universal marriage as a life goal. I was only trying to get you to understand why I'm getting married.
Maybe you should have been a lawyer. Your argument won me over.
Good Lord, Roz, this is a major life decision, not a sports shoe advertisement. Besides, how are you going to find someone and get him to pop the... Oh, no you didn't, did you?
I twirled my fork. Yes, I hired a service. Feeling as though she had finally found the fatal flaw in my plan, Kamakshi pounced.
You're okay with an Indian or Pakistani husband? The matchmakers here don't have many white men coming to them to find brides.
I knew she was going to extreme measures to save me from perceived idiocy. Nevertheless, that one smarted. My finger lashed out. That's a low blow. Kamakshi withered.
It was. I'm sorry. I know you wouldn't care.
No, I wouldn't. What's with you today? You're so emotional. I rested the fork on the side of the plate. FYI, I didn't include anything to do with race or religion or nationality on the weighty list of qualifications I gave to the guy over at Hommes HQ.
The headhunting agency.
Kamakshi spit out.
Oh, this just gets better and better.
Come on, it's not that different from what you did. Hommes HQ is renowned for its professionalism. They found Carmen for me in just a week. Xavier Hommes himself is already at work building a profile and finding someone to fill the position. Looking as though she might be considering dragging me off to the local psych ward, Kamakshi instead took a few deep breaths. She knew from experience that once I got it into my mind to do something, arguing me to the opposite was like trying to pull out an embedded porcupine quill. The idea only dug in deeper. She may have even let the subject rest had I not added, "Will you be my matron of honor?"
You do realize how crazy it is to ask me that when you don't even have a groom yet, right?
I blinked twice. Is that a no?
That's an if you actually go through with this crazy idea, yes. But I'll admit, Rosalind, I don't think you will. You can't handle a strong relationship the way you do a manicure. Picking a husband is far more difficult than picking out a shade of polish.
Oh, this will happen, I assured her. Xavier Hommes won't let me down. Chapter 7. Rosalind. Xavier sat at a table set for two across a room crowded with diners. A checkerboard floor with alternating black and white tiles made me feel like I'd just stepped onto a chessboard. At the far corner of the restaurant, a man dressed as a gondolier played accordion, while his partner belted out something in Italian that had two female tourists at the table swooning. I tiptoed through the front door and jolted when a woman in the tightest white dress I'd seen this side of a mummy appeared from nowhere and asked how many in my party. None.
Just looking then, madame.
I felt a tingle at the top of my ears that slowly worked itself down my jawline and met my lips. Madame? Surely the hostess had meant miss. I'm meeting someone, but I see him right over there. I extended a finger in Xavier's direction. The headhunter must have felt out eyes upon him. He lifted a hand and flexed his fingers in a wave.
Ah,
said the hostess in a tone that spoke so much more than just understanding.
with Signore Homme, enjoy.
Xavier rose to his feet when I swiveled into my chair. I assured him that he needn't be so gallant on my account, but he nonetheless waited until I was comfortable to return to his side of the table. They seem to know you here. Much to my chagrin, he didn't take the bait and attempt to explain why.
Did you have any trouble finding it?
I shook my head. Don't dodge the question. The glass paused at his lips.
You didn't ask a question, Rosalind.
Fine. How do they know you so well here?
I've brought dates here.
The loaded intonation in the way he said dates didn't slip past me. I turned my attention to unrolling the napkin and placed it on my lap. Women you slept with? He sipped his wine.
Usually.
A reverberation shuddered through me. There was such a lack of defensiveness in his tone. It was obvious he didn't see rampant womanizing as something shameful. I didn't doubt for a moment that his callous attitude extended to me. Only, whereas for previous women putting out meant sex, for me, it meant money. And the reason you're bringing me to this pizza parlor is...
Purely professional, though the quality of the chef is also a factor. I want to watch you order.
Xavier rubbed a chin on which an after-5 shadow of gruff teased my eyes. He, in turn, seemed to be studying my every intricacy with as much dedication. Watch me order? Please reassure me you're actually my contractor and not a stalker.
A moment ago you were jealous I had been here with other women, and now you're worried I'm pursuing you too closely. Are you always this indecisive?
I'm not jealous, just curious. The values my chosen matchmaker brings to the job could reflect on the way he goes about choosing my candidate. But I also know there would be no reason to be jealous. You don't bring women here anymore.
Not in several months.
He narrowed his gaze.
Care to share with me how you deduced that?
I double blinked. Was the master asking the student for lessons, or just trying to alert himself to what tricks he used that would no longer work on me? You didn't say that you bring dates here, but that you brought them. Past tense.
Very good, Rosalind. If this whole developing app-building GUIs doesn't work out for you, and you'd like to come work for me, I'd be happy to discuss that.
I cackled at that. Ha ha. You couldn't afford me. His eyes darkened.
Money isn't the only form of compensation I offer.
Holy, holy. The man actually found a way to knock me speechless. I couldn't decide if I was insulted or intrigued, but reminding myself of the reason we were here to begin with, I did the most professional thing I could think of and let the statement pass without comment. The corners of Xavier's mouth twitched as if to tease me that my silence made it obvious I'd understood his innuendo. It was then that I realized this must be part of some kind of assessment, and I'd performed in a way that reconfirmed some suspicion. After a few moments spent studying the menu, he continued.
I'm only a stalker of good Merlot. And FYI, this isn't a pizza parlor. I believe the proper term for it is un ristorante italiano. I know of your penchant for Golden Hollywood, but have you ever seen When Harry Met Sally?
I nodded. Total chick flick and I am a woman, so of course, even if it was made after 1965.
Do you remember that scene in the diner where Harry watches Sally order, then explains to her the difference between high and low maintenance women?
After the comment made before, that was the image he wanted me to have in mind? Fine, if he wanted banter, I'd give him banter. Right before she fakes the orgasm in public. I'm not sure what that will tell you about what kind of man would make me a good husband, but okay. With that, I threaded my fingers through my blonde hair, rolled my neck, and let out a low moan. The man across the table from me went into deer-in-headlights mode. That's right, Xavier. I can knock you speechless, too, I thought to myself.
What? No, please don't.
He stumbled to answer, coughing into his napkin. It took a good 20 seconds and a tall drink of water to collect himself, during which I smoothed out my napkin like nothing had happened.
Even in San Francisco, I think that would result in our being asked to leave,
he said after he calmed down.
My point is, Harry would have been quickly promoted in my company. He understood how the seemingly mundane acts we engage in every day showcase everything about us.
I breezed through the dishes. When the waiter emerged a few minutes later with a bread basket and then set it on the table, I felt the weight of Xavier's eyes on my hand as I reached out and grabbed a slice. Will you please stop that?
What?
Making me feel like I'm under the microscope, I said. I know observation is part of your procedure, but Jack observed me at work where I was surrounded by people. This sort of one-on-one thing with you tracking me from moment to moment. It's very unnerving. You can see perfectly well what I'm doing without training hawk eyes on me.
I'm upsetting you. Apologies. I'm not accustomed to having such a specified subject in such an intimate situation.
I heard myself gulp. Intimate.
Yes, in that we are meeting one-on-one, as you duly noted.
I sat back, feeling silly that I let the word mean anything beyond its most dictionary-citable nature. The menu hitched on the side of the table. My mind began to see much more depth in my order than a preference of pomodoro versus pesto. The waiter returned, pen poised, looking at me like I was about to sprout poetry. What would Xavier possibly be able to deduce from what I was about to say? If I ordered chicken, would that suggest I had bland tastes? Did pork signify a sweet tooth and desire for a quick rush? Did fish imply I gave so little care to the state of my breath so as to inflict a misdue treat to whoever should come mouth to mouth with me? Feeling like any selection I made was bound to put too much stock into a meaningless measure, I closed my menu and leaned back in my seat. I raised 2 fingers on my right hand and pointed at Xavier. Actually, the gentleman will order for me. Xavier's eyes glossed over. A devilish grin spread across his face as he coaxed the waiter near and spoke into the young man's ear. The waiter, in turn, nodded, scratching on his order pad. "Oh, and a garden salad," I added when they'd finished. Please substitute Caesar dressing for Italian, and if you can sprinkle just a little Parmesan on it, that would be great." The waiter looked confused.
So, a Caesar salad then?
"No, I noticed on the menu that your house salad is $3 less, and the only difference between what I ordered and that is a few bites of grilled chicken."
Then I'll give you Caesar salad. No chicken.
He began scratching on his order pad again. "Will you charge me less if I ask for it with no chicken?" The waiter shook his head and let out a few nervous chuckles.
What can I say, Signorina? It's all on the computer. I just hit the buttons.
"You can say you'll follow my request," I returned. "Garden salad with Caesar, hold the Italian with just a pinch of shredded Parmesan." When at last he unhappily acquiesced and left, I turned back to the Xavier, hitching my chin on my balled-up fist. "What does that decision tell you?"
You're not a humble person.
My face screwed up. I guess I shouldn't have asked. Tapping his palate with his tongue, Xavier shook his head.
That's not a bad thing. You're extremely confident and self-aware. You don't demur, you redistribute. It's an astounding quality in someone of your age to realize when you're in a situation where the best course of action might be to take someone else's advice.
"We'll see about that when I taste whatever it is you ordered for me," I joked. Xavier chuckled in turn.
This is one of North Beach's best. I assure you, you'll love it.
"I'd just see about that. I had astoundingly particular tastes when it came to food." "And what's with all this? Someone of your age? I thought we were about the same age."
On the contrary, I have a whole 5 years on you.
Xavier informed me. I tipped my wine at him. "That explains why you dress like someone from the age of Big Band then. You're ancient." In kind, Xavier saluted me with his drink. Conversation turned toward the natural, both of us taking the opportunity to share our Silicon Valley origin story. I explained how I grew up in Santa Cruz, a coastal town just an hour south of San Francisco, famous for its hippies and their horticulture. Xavier had arrived to the West Coast after university and taken up a job with an existing firm. After several years, he had built up a reputation and proven track record that made going into business for himself seem the most logical thing.
It wasn't that I didn't enjoy where I was.
He explained as the waitstaff cleared the appetizers and wheeled out the entrees.
I just knew I'd never have the kind of control over the career I wanted unless I was doing my own thing. I wanted something that was mine.
I understand completely. That's why I founded Beta House. I guess we have a lot in common. A smile broke over his face.
I guess so.
2 steaming dishes appeared on the table before us. Despite my thorough background in Italian dining, I found the matching dishes misplaced. "Are these kebabs?" It certainly looked more like something from the Persian cafe 2 blocks from my loft than anything one would find in Rome.
Spendini.
Xavier answered. He used his fork to coax the morsels of shrimp, beef, and pork from the spit. "Aren't kebabs Persian?"
So the Persians claim. As do the Greeks, the Turks, the Arabs. Personally, I think kebabs came to Italy via Venetian merchants conducting trade with the Ottoman Empire.
His knife sliced a roasted potato flecked with rosemary. I speared a liberated shrimp from my plate. "You a food historian on the side?"
When something grabs my attention, I find myself wanting to know everything about it.
His eyes lingered on the morsel I held up for visual examination.
If you don't like it, spit it out.
He winked.
I'm not one of those men who expects a lady to swallow.
Such a coaxing tone took me aback, but I didn't think for a moment Xavier Hommes was flirting with me. Like everything with him, it was a test, an assessment. Given that, I didn't see the point in not playing along. "No, you're one of the men who likes to order phallic-shaped food for their dinner dates to eat."
Ms. Betters, if I wanted to give you something phallic-shaped for your mouth, I would do it after dinner.
Fine, he could have this round. Touché, Mr. Holmes. The moment I bit down on the shrimp, an explosion of olive oil, rosemary, thyme, and oregano jolted my taste buds to life. As I chewed, my eyes drifted closed, wanting to concentrate on the taste. The saltiness of the sea drawn from the shrimp mixed with the lemon's tartness, and a hint of sweetness from what I didn't know. An aroma hit my senses in short order, bringing to mind a trip to Tuscany, taken when I was a sophomore at Stanford. I felt a drop of liquid chasing over my chin, and opened my eyes only when I felt the scratch of stiff linen. My gaze landed on Xavier, who was looking at me with concern, amusement, and something else I couldn't quite grasp. Through a raspy voice, he said,
Looks like you like it.
"Let me say this. If you did want to reenact that diner scene, I wouldn't be faking." I chewed enough to swallow, then met his gaze straight on. "Why don't you bring women here anymore, Mr. Holmes?"
That's rather personal.
"Fine, then I'll offer you something on par." I dropped my fork and leaned in over the table. "In answer to your question from the other night, yes, sex is important to me. I like sex, a lot, and I miss it, a lot. But I'm not a one-night stand type of girl."
How long is it?
This time he cut himself off, holding out a hand and shying his eyes away.
I'm sorry, that's none of my business.
"A year and a month, 13 months. So, yep." His eyes jolted wide with my rushed admission. I couldn't tell if the tenderness that he melted into was meant as pity or compassion. I welcomed neither. I was willing to bet Xavier didn't even go a cycle of the moon without a hookup. Something about him had the dignified playboy vibe. He was the type that kissed but would never tell. I certainly didn't need his pity either. Did he think I couldn't have had 10 guys in the last year? In the last month, if I had wanted it?
I had an epiphany.
"You're gay?" Xavier shook his head.
I can't believe I'm telling you this, but here it goes. One of my dates felt awkward. You know that kind of feeling you get when you know someone, but you can't place them?
"I do. I think everyone does." Xavier continued.
I chalked it up to us having crossed paths professionally at some point. I was careful not to reveal it to her, of course. I wanted her to think she was important enough to me to remember. Anyways, things took their natural course. It wasn't until the next morning when she told me that our second night together was even better that I'd realized what had happened. It made me question what kind of man I was, that my dates were so interchangeable. I applied my own psychological methods on myself and realized it's because they were. Beautiful, intelligent women who nonetheless I shared nothing in common and who I'd never want to be with long term. I decided I needed to grow up. Not that I'm looking to get married, mind you, but it's time to be serious.
"So you're looking for a long-term relationship?"
Longer anyways. I think I'd like to try being in a relationship not based on sex, but I've never done that, so how to go about it? I'm a little clueless.
He shook his head and raised his glass.
Here's to hoping we both find what we're looking for.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Have Gown Will Wed, written by Killian McRae. The text and audio copyright for this production are held by Killian McRae, the sole owner of the content therein. Digital voice narration provided by 11 Labs. The music you're hearing is Happy Alley, written by Kevin MacLeod and made available via incompetech.com. It's licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. http creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0. See you next time.